What's going on? Alex here, and in today's video I'll be talking about morning wood. So morning wood is one of the symptoms that men experience when they have low testosterone. And in today's video I really want to break down to reasons why men have low morning wood, what's the reason that people have good morning wood, and how to optimize it and how to actually do it from a proper lens. Getting morning wood / erections from a protective metabolism rather than from a stress metabolism, which can be done as well. I remember when I used to do the ketogenic diet, I would get crazy morning wood and just nighttime erections. And that was due to stress because your nitric oxide production increases, which is a stress response. But because of that, blood flow increases and things like that. And at the time that it was happening, I thought it was a positive thing, but it was from a stress response. Just like the way Viagra works or other drugs, but these drugs are operating from a stress lens, and long term it damages and ages the system, right? In today's breakdown, I really want to present it to you how to accomplish morning wood from a protective lens. So let's get into it. By the way, a lot of the things I'll be discussing would be in the Metabolic Dominion ebook, which is free to download, link in the bio. But let's get into it. So when it comes to morning wood, it's something that I've seen with clients. They lose when they have problems with their hormones. If you're in your teens, early 20s, and you're not getting morning wood, that is a problem. What do you think is going to happen in 10 years, 20 years if you don't fix your situation? You're not going to get morning wood. You're going to lose your hair. You're not going to have any drive. It's just going to keep getting worse. So if you're not getting morning wood, this is something you definitely want to address. And it's one of the first symptoms of a stress metabolism. So morning erections, technically called nocturnal penile tumescence, if I'm pronouncing that right, aren't just a sexual reflex. So it's not a sexual thing. It's not because you're having like sex dreams and things like that. In a metabolic repeat style framework, they're a direct sign of how well your body produces energy overnight. This is why you see a lot of these health gurus measure their erection duration during the night. They have all these devices because that's one way to track the health of your metabolism, right? As Pete often emphasized, energy and structure are inseparable. When energy is low, function collapses. And a good morning wood is a sign of good health. An erection is function. Morning wood is proof of energetic abundance. So number one, physiological first principle, morning wood equals high overnight metabolism. So an erection depends on ATP, which is energy, thyroid hormone T3, active thyroid to support respiration, which then in response produces more CO2. So CO2 production, smooth muscle relaxation, absence of stress mediators like serotonin, cortisol, prolactin. When those conditions are met, an erection appears spontaneously during REM sleep. As Shant, if I'm pronouncing that right, wrote, life is tension and energy. Relaxation is the expression of energy. Stiffness is the mark of its absence. Hence why people who die, they're very stiff because energy is required for relaxation. So penile smooth muscle relaxes when energy is high. If morning wood is strong, your metabolism was strong while you slept. If it's weak or missing, stress chemistry likely dominated the night. And it's as simple as that. It's not because you're not taking some magic supplement. It's not that you're not taking some herb or some magic trick. It's literally that. It's foundational, you know? And if you're missing morning wood, I guarantee you're experiencing other metabolic issues within your chemistry. Number two, REM sleep, the pro-metabolic state behind night erections. So most erections occur during REM sleep. REM is dopaminergic, so boosts dopamine. So it's opposite to serotonin. Glucose hungry, meaning sleep requires energy. It consumes glucose. That's why when you don't have enough food, or you're in a caloric deficit, or your body's just not in a good energetic state, it's harder to sleep. A lot of people think, oh, when I'm sleeping, I'm relaxing. But in reality, sleep is a very high energy demanding thing. Just think about it. This is where you recover. This is where you're producing hormones. You're processing all of the things that happen during the day, and you wake up, if you're in a good state, brand is like new. And as you age, you wake up tired in the morning, worse and worse and worse. But as a child, when your metabolic rate is the highest, you go to sleep and you wake up as new, you know? High CO2, low in cortisol, deep parasympathetic. So parasympathetic means a relaxed nervous system. This is why nocturnal erections aren't sexual, they're metabolic. Ray Peat frequently emphasized that the parasympathetic state is a state of energy. Morning wood simply reflects this energy spillover into waking consciousness. For some people, you might not get morning wood when you sleep the 8-9 hours, but you might get it when you have a nap during the day. The reason is you lack the energy to sustain you throughout the 8 or 9 hours, but a simple nap gets you into that state and you wake up after a REM cycle and you might get morning wood. I remember when I was recovering, that would be the steps. First, it would be after a nap, I'll get morning wood, but when I would sleep 9 hours, I wouldn't, so on and so forth. So the hormonal profile behind morning erections. So I'll cover more of this. Fundamentally, cholesterol, vitamin A, thyroid, you produce pregnenolone and your protective hormones. So thyroid hormone, thyroid, mitochondrial respiration, CO2, smooth muscle relaxation. So the biggest culprit for proper morning wood is CO2. Pete, low thyroid means low energy, and low energy means low function, sexual function included. Testosterone peaks in the early morning, but it only works when metabolism is high. Barnes repeatedly showed that symptoms of low thyroid masquerade as low testosterone, hence why you want to start with the foundation. I see a lot of guys that are testosterone coaches, right? And they're like talking about these herbs, and if you take this herb, you do this, and they're only playing around with this. But the problem is here, the foundation, right? Then next, high dopamine, low prolactin. Dopamine promotes libido and erection. Prolactin suppresses dopamine. Prolactin is a stress hormone. High prolactin lowers testosterone and motivation. Another thing, a little hack you can look into, looking at your screen time. I remember one of the things that helped me and working with clients is getting your screen time low. It might sound a bit woo-woo, but just fundamentally, when you're like, one of the reasons guys have erectile dysfunction is from watching porn and things like that, and they become desensitized, and then when they're with a woman, they can't get it up because they've experienced such a high, and they're just so desensitized. The best way I can describe it is, if you see these guys that are into drugs, then the greater and greater and greater hit. And those basic things like enjoying a moment with a woman that you're in a relationship with, or you're married to, well, optimally you're married to, or just morning wood in the morning, those are, you get to experience those because those are low, how to put it, you experience morning wood best when you're sensitive to those things. And when you desensitize yourself with those extreme things like watching porn or even the way social media is designed, you overconsume or overindulge of overstimulating yourself, and you just become desensitized to life, right? So decreasing your morning wood makes you resensitize yourself to just simple things, right? That's why in scripture it talks about overindulgence, gluttony, that it leads to corruption, versus temperance and self-control is key to heal yourself from that, you could say. So looking at it from that lens as well, not watching those things, resensitizing yourself is a big thing. Also, one of the reasons prolactin increases after an orgasm is because the orgasm has such a big dopamine spike. Prolactin increases to protect your dopamine receptors. And that's why you have the, I forgot the term for it, whatever. But it's same thing for overstimulating yourself with screen time. To protect your dopamine receptors, your body elevates your prolactin levels. And with prolactin, you just feel numb, you feel like desensitized, you just feel like a bubble, you could say. But yeah, let's continue. So, low cortisol plus low serotonin. Both of these constrict blood vessels and inhibit erection. Stress is the state in which the body prepares for defeat. Morning wood disappears when stress dominates. So the reason why you don't get morning wood is because you're in a primarily stress metabolism. So the cellular mechanics. An erection is the relaxation of smooth muscle, not its contraction. Relaxation requires oxygen, CO2, electron flow, magnesium, ATP. A muscle at rest is not a muscle without energy. It is a muscle full of energy. It goes back to the thing I've always mentioned. It takes energy for you to relax. People who are always fidgeting, they're always moving, or the brain is constantly racing, is because they're operating from a stress state, because they can't relax, because it actually takes energy for calmness, right? When energy declines, tissues become rigid and unresponsive. This is exactly how low metabolism leads to poor erections. This is a post I made on Twitter. So why morning wood disappears? So one thing Ray Pete mentioned, like the ways that guys elicit blood flow is through nitric oxide boosters. So like poppers, Viagra, things. They don't just open blood flow, they slam the system with a radical that steals oxygen from your cells. The same stress signal your body produces during aging. People think it's performative enhancement. Pete thought it was metabolic taxation. You see this also within the bodybuilding industry. Guys take these nitric oxide boosting supplements as a pre-workout and things like that, but that's damaging the system. You can have good blood flow, a good pump. The best way I can describe it, why do you think these guys who, let's say, use testosterone, they don't need pre-workouts as much and they have these crazy pumps? Because they're operating from a different system. You can also argue that some of them are still operating from the stress system because testosterone, they're doing it incorrectly, increases estrogen, increases stress hormones, things like that. But fundamentally, you can have amazing erections, blood flow, all of those things from a state of a protective metabolism. So nighttime cortisol spikes. If liver glycogen runs out, cortisol rises to make glucose from your tissues. So Pete, running out of glycogen is the beginning of the stress cascade. So cortisol is an erection killer. Hence why I mentioned at the start how Some may experience morning wood after a nap, but not after 9-10 hours of sleeping, because their liver glycogen stores are depleted and they have enough for a few hours, but not for the entire 9 hours of sleep. B, low thyroid function. So no thyroid, no CO2, no relaxation, no erection. Next, high serotonin from gut irritation endotoxin. So serotonin is a sign of high tissue prolactin. So prolactin is a sign of high serotonin and estrogen levels in the tissues. So serotonin rises prolactin, reduces dopamine, constricts vessels. P, serotonin is largely a stress and inflammation mediator, not a happiness chemical. D, PUFA accumulation. PUFAs suppress thyroid, rise estrogen, and impair mitochondria. P, PUFAs are anti-metabolic fats. E, poor breathing during sleep, so hypoxia, sleep apnea, low oxygen at night, stress, poor erections. SSRIs, which rise serotonin, suppress dopamine, eliminate libido. And a lot of the things that I'm talking about right now are very fundamental. You might watch another video that's more tacticky. You apply those things, you might experience better morning wood or erections. And the tactic will be operating either from a stress state or from a prometabolic state, which may on the surface give the same result, which is better blood flow, but it could be from stress or prometabolic. And the tactic that you apply will go back to the foundation again. So always look at the foundation. So 6, morning wood as a metabolic marker. A consistent morning erection signals robust thyroid function, strong mitochondrial respiration, steady liver glycogen, low nighttime stress hormones, healthy dopamine tone, proper REM cycling. As Pete wrote, youth is the state of high energy production. Morning erections are one of the simplest signs of youthfulness. So if you're not getting morning wood, this is something you definitely want to address and optimize, right? Number 7, how to improve morning wood. So here are some strategies that you can apply yourself and get results. So besides, number 1, support thyroid function, warm hands and feet, good temperature, strong pulse. And the thing that I mentioned at the start, apply the fundamentals that are mentioned in the Metabolic Dominion ebook, which is free. You can download, and it goes over nutrition, hormones, and things like that. I'll leave a link down below. And also, if you want more in-depth, a community around asking those questions, joining calls and things like that, there's a community free to join as well. The Brotherhood, link in the description as well. So the foundation would be thyroid function, which in the ebook I discuss how to track that, all of those things like that. So that is the foundation. Better thyroid function equals better blood flow and fundamentally better protective hormone production. Number 2, keep blood sugar stable at night. A bedtime snack reduces cortisol, so orange juice, gelatin, warm milk, honey, fruit and cheese, and also making sure you're eating enough throughout the day. A big mistake I see a lot of guys make when they're in the bioenergetic lens or repeatish, whatever you want to call it, they're eating these magic foods, but they're lacking the principles of, if your caloric need for the day is 3,000 calories and you eat 2,500 calories, even though you ate all the approved foods, you're still in a 500 caloric deficit. And your body needs to get those 5 calories from somewhere. And what it does, it increases your stress hormones like cortisol to break down your muscle tissue, or you liberate free fatty acids from your fat stores. And if you have a lot of PUFAs stored, you're liberating those PUFAs, which increases estrogen, and it causes a stress cascade. So you can eat all of these magic foods, but if you're in a stress state, in a deficit, you could say, you're still gonna not be operating from a protective lens. So pay attention to that. And that's why I believe what gets measured gets accomplished. Some say, oh, you don't need to track all of those things. Sure, when you're in a good state, when you're healthy, you can operate more from a appetite basis. But when you're in a stress state and you're running on stress hormones and your appetite is suppressed and your gut is messed up, you need some structure, you need some guidance, you need something that leads you to get you out of that state, you know? Number 3, low serotonin and endotoxin. So if you have endotoxin in your gut, it's burdening the liver, especially when you're sleeping, and increasing stress hormones and things like that. You want to fix that. So utilizing the raw carrot salad, cooked mushrooms, activated charcoal occasionally. Like Pete mentioned, endotoxin lowers thyroid function and rises serotonin. Number 4, increase CO2. So making sure you're breathing with your nose. When you're exercising, you're not hyperventilating. Utilizing back breathing, warm environment, thyroid support. CO2 equals smooth muscle relaxation. Things like baking soda, things like that. But fundamentally, thyroid function. Number 5, get bright light. So light increases dopamine and lowers melatonin prolactin. And melatonin is a stress signal. So Pete, light is profoundly anti-stress. So getting sunlight, red light, if you're inside, utilizing incandescent light. Number 6, avoiding polyunsaturated fat / accumulation. So replacing PUFA with saturated fats like coconut oil, butter, ghee, which improves mitochondrial energy. Also pay attention to your body fat. If your body fat is over 15-20% body fat, you have more aromatase enzyme activity, which leads to higher stress. And the biggest problem with high body fat, you can even argue, if you know Georgi Dinkov, he's in a good state from what he claims, and he's in a higher body fat percentage. And someone can be in a higher body fat percentage and be healthy, just like the other way. Someone can be low body fat and be in a stress state. You see a lot of these bodybuilders that do these crash diets and they're 8% body fat and they're just messed up. So it's how you get into that state. But majority of the time, people have excess amount of body fat from a stress state. They have poor metabolic function and things like that. So being in a healthy body fat, because higher body fat means you have more PUFA accumulation. And when you're in a state of stress, you're liberating those PUFAs, increasing your estrogen, things like that. So that prevents you from healing properly. So paying attention. I've made videos on how to drop body fat from a rapid lens, you could say. So paying attention to that. Number 7, reduce chronic stress. So warmth, adequate calories, restorative sleep. Cellular would say, it is not stress that harms us, but our lack of energy to cope with it. And this is something that I've underlined quite often. And this is the first time I came across this quote. And it all comes together, it all makes sense. It's a pattern. I've talked about it in previous videos. Like, you see a lot of these guys, like, they're avoiding EMF. They're like using gloves to touch plastic, whatever it is, which is, the intention is nice. But if you have a robust energy state, if you have energy to withhold all of these stressful things, and I think we have a limited amount of discipline and effort and energy to spend on a daily basis. And I believe in minimalism and freedom in a sense of not having extremely structured lifestyle, because that in of itself is very serotonergic. You want simplicity. You don't want to wake up and you have a 50 step system before you start doing whatever you have to do. You want to be childlike. You want to wake up and do the things that you want to do in a dopaminergic manner. You want to keep it fun, you could say. And the funnest way to do it is just eating, doing things that increase your energy, so that when there are stressors in your life, your body can easily cope with it and get over it, right? Rather than you see some of these guys, they're like in this very structured environment, and if they do something outside of that, they get sick for a week, or they have all these issues, and that's not a life to live, right? But don't get me wrong, small things you can optimize, like the water that you drink, getting filters, like small things like that. But when it becomes, there's like diminishing returns. But yeah, so to underline, it is not stress that harms us, but our lack of energy to cope with it. The same with morning wood. If you're not getting morning wood, it is because you're not producing energy the best way you can, and you want to optimize that. So that being said, hopefully you got some value out of this video and you have a better understanding around morning wood. Like I mentioned, get the free ebook down below, join the community, and start taking action. Because I'm telling you, if you're experiencing this and you're a teenager, early 20s, it's only going to get worse. But likewise, when you're in your 30s, 40s, whatever it is, it can still be optimized. You see it in studies, men in rural areas that are age 70 have the same testosterone levels as 17-year-olds. So it has nothing to do with age. It's about your lifestyle. So if you're an older gentleman, there is still hope and you can optimize this. It'll be harder, but it still can be done. But that being said, hopefully this was a blessing, you could say. And yeah, God bless.